So today our topic is on the business of luxury and wellness in a changing world. We have 4 industry heavyweights representing different parts of the hospitality industry, all involved with luxury. And without further ado, I have a interesting question / statement that I would like to set it off with. So everybody in the hospitality industry has an idea that they want wellness, but they don't really know what wellness means. Wellness is a word that's about this big, and then they have to translate it into a product that is this big, and then deliver it to the customer in a sense that's this big. Previously, over the last 20 years, the spa product was the wellness product. But when you take a look at it today, wellness is more than just spa. It's really into a lifestyle. And so my feeling is that hoteliers and hospitality companies are grappling with this idea of how do you make wellness a business. So I want to start with Neil Jacobs, who probably has the most experience in this, to give us a sense of how do you take wellness and make it a business.
Hello. Well, the setup was pretty good, and I think, Mark, you're absolutely right. Firstly, it would be really wonderful if we could just change the word wellness and stop using it. It's a little bit like sustainability, right? It means so much and so many different things to different people, but certainly I'd much prefer if we talked about well-being rather than wellness today. I mean, years and years ago, it was all about the spa, and as Ruben says, spa is not wellness. Spa is one piece of wellness that's important, but really it's about what you can do, certainly within hospitality. And the way we look at it at Six Senses, with 30 years kind of doing this, is, how do you make people feel better when they leave than when they arrived? I think, hotel companies have always historically had difficulty with it, and then in the last few years have woken up to, well, we need to be in the wellness business, and everybody needs to be in the wellness business, but the reality is you cannot just be in the wellness business overnight. So I think how you make it into a business obviously has to come from the top. You have to choose your arguments. You have to choose your segment. Do you want to be in medical business side of it, or do you want to be in the well-being side of it? There's spiritual wellness, there's mental wellness, there's financial wellness. These are all issues that we touch on at Six Senses every single day. But I mean, the way we tend to look at it is to give our guests what we call a layered approach. We're specific that we're not in the destination spa business. We're not a Canyon Ranch. We're not a Viva Maya or a Lanzerhof. We want to give people options to go as deep or as shallow as they would prefer to, and offer programming that covers all kinds of elements, from food, nutrition, to weight, to sleep, to integrated wellness, yoga, and on and on. It has to come from the top, though, and there has to be a commitment. And if companies just look at it from the point of view of ROI, it's unlikely to pan out. What they do need to look at is what can a robust wellness, well-being program do to occupancy? room occupancy. What can it do to average rate? It certainly can increase length of stay, and a subject that we'll get onto a little bit later. People who go to hotels and embark on a wellness journey of one form or another spend more money than those that don't. And the data we have is that that's between 15 and 20%. But it needs to have that commitment. It comes back. You cannot just say, let the spa director do it, let this one do it. We in every hotel have a wellness director that goes beyond just running the spa. There's a spa director as well who reports to a wellness director, and the wellness director touches every department within the hotel and looks at everything that is going on. They sit on the executive committee of the hotel, and they keep it honest. And whether it's for guests or employees, that wellness permeates every piece of what we do every day. And that must be the corporate office that is driving that agenda.
Clint, do you see the same thing?
I mean, so I'm being the only designer on the panel. I provide a different perspective, and for us, you know, it's quite, I think, unfortunate because from a designer's perspective, you know, for us, wellness equates to the brand, and which equates to luxury. So, you know, if we're not working on a banyan tree or a Six Senses, the wellness, or I'll call them spas, they sort of become an afterthought, and they're not as ingrained in the product. So I always find it odd to have to work on a wellness facility with a big brand, and you know, they'll bring in a spa consultant or a wellness consultant. I always thought that sort of signified sort of the lack of maybe interest in that particular operator trying to get into wellness, because you have to rely on another outsourced company to tell you what to do. So it's tricky because as designers, there's a line for us, and I think we talked about this earlier, where there's a line between, you know, money being able to afford certain things. So for us, when you get to luxury and wellness, I think those two go together, unfortunately, at this point. Kind of like sustainability, which is, I guess, our next subject, right?
Mark?
May I give a little introduction about boutique, because we're not as well known as Six Senses.
Please.
Do you mind? So boutique, we have these beautiful palaces that we're renovating to ultra luxury hotels. So these are beautiful heritage sites of former kings that we've redeveloped. The key is now to deliver this Saudi hospitality. That's really our vision, and that's our objective, because that's, to me, our position will be Saudi hospitality as the new benchmark in the hospitality industry. You know, there was Asian hospitality, and before European hospitality was very well known. To me, the Saudi hospitality is really the most welcome, embracing. The people are so warm. I believe that's our objective. So to talk about wellness, we really focus on, if we look at our guest profile, which will be Saudi, primarily Saudi, and from Europe and other parts of the world, but we'll focus on Saudi, and the top 2% of the leisure and business travelers. So I know we're talking about hotels and what we'll offer, but for us, we will also look at the community, because these palaces will be open for all the people in the community in Riyadh and Jeddah, where we will be located. And I think that's very important, because these are very special palaces that have history of the kings and the families and the guests that they entertained. And so, of course, the wellness, so if it's spa, if it's treatments, it's very diverse. And as you said, you know, it's really changed. Before it was about treatments, and at the same time, is it a gym? You know, what type of equipment you have. To me, To me, I wouldn't be a good guest for a wellness and spa because I don't like to be touched. You know, my wife loves treatments and so on, but I don't like that. To me, health and wellness is my running shoes when I travel, and I run, you know, early in the morning. So, but to look at the guest, we really will personalize it according to what the guest needs, what they will enjoy. And I believe that there will be treatments, there will also be facilities, the food, you know, but it's really about a lifestyle because to stay with us or to use our facilities for the short time, or if you're in the community and you come and use our facilities, I think is very good. But, you know, we want to educate people, you know, about the food and wellness and well-being. I think it's all part of it. It's not just one part. It's about the whole picture. It's about educating. Just like that's our industry, is to give that experience for the guests. But it really should be tailored to the guest, what the guest wants, the way the guest wants it. And everyone is very different and unique. Some people haven't traveled or haven't experienced these treatments, and other guests are well-traveled and they enjoy treatments, or they want to try something new, or they want a trainer to help them on how they can become more physically fit. I think it's really about that personalized approach. I think that's luxury, and that's, you know, time also is luxury. I think how you utilize your time, and to just enjoy and you know, the location and the surroundings. It's really encompasses all of that together.
Right. So Agnes, it's interesting because I know that Acco has really kind of doubled down in developing a wellness part of it, making wellness as part of its DNA. That they're creating wellness into the brand, if you will. You've got Emily Brown, who is the director of well-being, and so you're taking it much more from a high-level, holistic perspective, and figuring out, one, what do we do with wellness? Two, how do we implement it into our properties? And three, how do you scale it, right? Which is interesting because that's really a doubling down on wellness. I think other hospitality companies are looking at, I've got additional space, let's try to find a wellness operator to occupy that space. And then there's another group that says, I've got a gym, a spa, I've got food, I'm going to repackage it, and I'm going to call it wellness. So you've really taken kind of a deeper dive into wellness. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, with pleasure. You mentioned it, we prefer to call it well-being than pure wellness because we want to have, let's say, a 360 approach with the guest. You mentioned it, not only with physical, but with as well, you know, being well with psychological, etc. So we know last year we've polled 15,000 customers to better understand what were the trends post-COVID, and it was amazing to see across all the 7 countries we've polled that 4 customers out of 5 answered that they're introducing on a daily basis one small step to improve their health, to improve their well-being. And so the idea is to answer this major trend that COVID has positively reinforced. Let's take the positive thing of this big crisis. So health is really at the core of our customers' well-being as well. And indeed, we're trying to have a holistic approach. We have some bespoke concept in many of our brands, particularly our luxury brands, but not exclusively. We have the chance to have, let's say, Banyan Tree as really a brand which is very strong as regards well-being. Rixos, that has a different approach in terms of well-being, introducing a lot of sports, programs, meditation, you know, things that inspire you to really prevent and to have a better health. And I would like to quote as well two bespoke programs for well-being in Raffles and Fairmont. In Raffles, the name is a second nature, introducing, feng shui, meditation, yoga into the program, both for guests and employees, because we consider that if employees feel good, they will be able to transfer, good vibes to our guests. And Fairmont, they've got this now long-lasting program, Willow Stream, where we can have this bespoke concept in different, let's say, hotels. At the same time, and one of you mentioned it, scaling up, all this concept is very difficult. It's a bespoke concept for each and every hotel. So it's more inspiration and guidelines, but that we adapting to, let's say, the segment, the guests that are in the hotel.
So I want to read a excerpt from a Goldman Sachs report, and it says, "Wellness is becoming an essential indicator of a well-lived, modern luxury lifestyle. The benefits of wellness, feeling good and looking great, are the new luxuries that modern, affluent consumers want to enjoy and flaunt on social media." So my question to you is wellness the new wealthy, and is wellness actually a luxury product?
It's a real, if I may, it's a real problem because I think the answer is yes to both the questions. Just given the type of wellness that we do, that other luxury hotel companies do, the type of resource that is required to activate and bring to life a lot of the programming. The minute you start to introduce well-known medical personalities that get involved, the cost of delivery and the cost of infrastructure in your hotels is huge. So, it's not unusual today to, be spending $250, $300 on a massage, or $500 on a fancy facial in the spa, and then the minute you get into the real wellness product line, whether it's with cryotherapy or longevity programs, which people are starting to do today, it's very expensive to deliver. So consequently, you are eliminating most, social segments, if you like, in the world. A lot of people, kind of middle income, low income, are worrying about how do they keep their job and how do they stay alive, and cannot afford to buy organic food, and so on and so forth. So that's a real issue. My own personal vision, and this is not necessarily a Six Senses vision, but is to find a way, and this is something that we have talked about at the Global Wellness Summit, which is the leading organization, and the Global Wellness Institute around wellness, and particularly in hospitality, is how do we create product that is just much wider and much more accessible to lesser income groups. And no one has really done it well within hospitality. We are kind of looking at it. What you're finding these days, with the plays around the edges of wellness, are a lot of people, ourselves included, doing retreats, doing rituals, doing festivals that all tend to have a strong wellness piece about them, that are indeed and can be more affordable. So it gives people access to hotels. We would do them particularly in low season periods of the year, or shoulder periods when room rates are much lower, and really trying to create content that is, is not a couple of thousand a night, just to allow us to be able to do that. We're building 1 or 2 hotels now that, yes, are luxury, but still that have maybe 10% of their rooms that are built for lower income constituents, or whether they are government people or contributors to society who can't typically afford to stay in one of these hotels, and providing accommodation for them to come and experience some of what we're experiencing in. So I think it's an issue, and I think the industry has a responsibility, the well-being industry has a responsibility to figure this out and to come up with content that actually does reach a far wider group of our population.
So,
Excuse me.
Yeah.
And I think it's very interesting what Neil said, because also we talk about the Saudi consumer. They're very young. 70% of our population is under 40, right? So these brands, these retail brands, and you talk about luxury brands that have products that we use that some hotels partner with. And I think that's something to be considered. I think that certainly lends itself to the question that, what that was raised there. Because these are retail brands that are luxury brands, that it helps them, but also they utilize these products for treatments and also to promote their brand. But it's certainly the younger generation really use social media to position themselves and to reflect who they are and what they're doing, because they're very product sensitive, and these luxury brands.
So Agnes, talking about the luxury branding part of things, everybody has their own idea of what luxury is, and your job, I would assume, is to help define, at least for your organization, what is luxury and what is wellness within the organization. Is that all changing? Is the demographics changing? Are the product needs changing? Give us a sense of how you interpret luxury in today's market for a consumer that is always changing.
Yeah. I think there are big trends and big changes, but the foundations are really strong. And even in our sector and other sectors, if we take fashion and retail, the luxury definition is very common and strong. It's really a mix of tradition and innovation, a mix of history of the brand, and as well, let's say, boldness. And this is this mix that makes this secret sauce for me and for at the core of the luxury brands and the power of luxury. If we look at the key trends, and again, COVID has changed a bit, the world accelerated the changes. 2 things I would like to share with you. The first one is about this trend, particularly in luxury, for slow travel. Pause the pace. Really take the time with your family for yourself, and wellness and well-being are really great for this kind of experience. And so you've probably seen that with our secular Orient Express brand, we've launched 2 very innovative initiatives in line with slow travel, with trains, and as well with a sailing boat. So at a time where there are many initiatives with cruises, we've chosen deliberately a sailing boat for sustainability reason, but as well just to consider that where you want to pause this pace, where you are not sure about the destination you will reach with a sailing boat, and just take the time. The second big trend favored and accelerated by COVID is really about the frontiers between travel, tourism, and work that have been blurred. And so our guests, and particularly luxury guests, want to consider the hotel as a second home, and not just be in a room, but have a full experience. And this is what we call augmented hospitality. Augmented hospitality meaning we said work, live, play in a hotel. So the previous panel mentioned it. It's not it's far beyond room. It's really multifaceted hotel, including, of course, well-being, but as well a strong F&B to really have fun with your family or with your colleagues. And as well, you know, some things that are working very well and that are accelerating with branded residence. So having a hotel and as well having private residences using the service of the hotel. So it's more and more, you know, a major trend when you can see these frontiers that are very blurred between work and between leisure. We will open very soon the OWO, Old World Office by Raffles in London, and that is a perfect illustration of this full mix of experiences for the luxury guests, from superb and magnificent rooms, but as well branded residence, strong well-being, you know, and very strong F&B, so a full experience inside a hotel that becomes far more than let's say, room. And so at Acco, we've decided to open a new chapter with a dedication, stronger dedication to our brands. And so now we have a brand-led organization, one on luxury and lifestyle and another one on eco, mid-scale, and premium, with different drivers. Luxury and lifestyle is very much driven by bespoke hotel, bespoke projects, by value much more than volumes. To give you a balance, at Acco Development, we say we are in charge of opening and signing one hotel per day. So we have to open more than 300 hotels per year. But with the luxury and lifestyle division, we will probably open 20 to 30%, 50, 60 hotels, but with a bigger value. So we are very much focused on bespoke project, major destination, flagship products, value generation. Mm-hmm. So with this new organization, luxury and lifestyle, on one side, we want to really address these changing trends for the guests, address the investors and partners' needs for luxury and lifestyle components in their hotel.
Can I just say something there? I think what you're saying is really relevant and really interesting, particularly the first part, and the whole concept of, and people talk about it a lot, but it's true, the whole concept of creating community, which as hotel brands that do have a platform for branded residential product or a club product. In our case, it's called Six Senses Place. We have Six Senses Residences. The minute that you can start to put all this together, multi-generational type environments, wellness communities that talk to how buildings are constructed, how do you create a well building as opposed to a toxic building, and that's kind of the sweet spot between sustainability and wellness, and how all that comes together. You can end up creating this ecosystem that really is very curative and very focused on providing people with a well life, so to speak. You know, we talk about how you stay ahead of this and how you keep reinventing. I mean, certainly with my own company, we have what we call a wellness innovation team, which is about 5 or 6 people. Again, this comes back to commitment, that spend their time just looking at what is out there, what's the trend, what's the next piece of wellness that needs to be represented. And because it's changing all the time, and ill health is changing all the time. If you look at today, arguably one of the single most devastating illnesses globally is loneliness. You know, that's kind of a result, and it's not just COVID, but it's kind of a result of COVID. So the number of people, the data would tell you that, you know, 60-something% of people in the United States don't have any friends. They don't have anyone to talk to. I mean, maybe that exists more in a country like the US than it may do in Saudi, which has a different kind of family infrastructure. But this is a real issue that anyone who is who is really playing in the wellness space needs to consider. And lastly, I just would say the one good piece of COVID is that people are way more conscious today, we believe, as to how they're living their life. There's a far greater degree of mindfulness out there, and hence the demand on those of us in the hospitality industry to provide content as part of as an integral part of a hotel experience has grown exponentially since we've had COVID. People that never talked about this are talking about it. The fact that you're even quoting Goldman Sachs, inconceivable that 5 years ago, Goldman Sachs would start the day on the trading floor with a meditation session. I mean, who would ever have thought that would happen?
Make more money.
Well, yeah, maybe. But the consciousness is way greater. And I believe as an industry, we have a responsibility to provide solutions for that.
So, Clint, for you, sustainability is a hot button issue for everywhere. Owners, businesses, developers, governments, right? But when you think luxury and sustainability, those are two words that generally don't work together, right? So, as a designer, right?
Unless you're Sixth Senses, I guess is what Neil's saying.
Right. How do you design luxury and wellness into your projects and make them sustainable?
That's a $1 million question, isn't it? Because they don't normally go together. I mean, you have to sacrifice, unfortunately, one or the other. So, it's a financial project. I mean, you're doing a project for a reason. So, unfortunately, most of the times, in the end, the fact that you may or may not be sustainable does not drive income, so it gets diluted.
Right.
That's just the unfortunate thing. But I was just in Milan last week, and I was, this is new to me, I was at one of the suppliers, furniture suppliers, and they were making furniture out of recycled materials. Whether that makes it in my final spec as designer is a different story, but I think the industry has a long way to go in terms of delivering sustainable projects on a continuous basis. I think, unfortunately, financial factors and maybe also delivery times get in the way. There's a company in Germany that does these wonderful cast iron bathtubs. They figured a way how to be sustainable, but the problem is that it's hard to get the bathtub from the Maldives back to get recycled halfway across the world and then remade into another bathtub and sent back to the Maldives. So I think until you figure a logistic like that out, it becomes really, really difficult and almost improbable to have the two exist or coexist in the same word, the same sentence.
Do you have to take, I mean, it seems to me that one of the critical elements is that you've got to implement sustainability into the story of the brand, into the project. Because you to have sustainable elements is one thing. To make it a story that people who go there and buy into it is something completely different. Would you agree?
Yeah, we start that way. It's placemaking, right? So if you're building a project in Lula or something, and you want to use that stone that's there, that's a great story, right? It makes sense. But end of the day, if that stone that's there, it's too difficult to get out or to use, or it's too expensive, you're bringing another stone from China. But it's a great story. It's just whether it really, at the end of the day, becomes something that's more probable than improbable.
I can barely contain myself here.
Easy. So, Mark, the Middle East has always been associated with wealth and luxury. It always has. But today it feels different now, right? So instead of following, it feels like this region is leading in terms of design and tourism and hospitality. So you've worked with top luxury brands around the world with major international companies. The question that I have is Saudi Arabia leading the future of hospitality?
Absolutely, it is. And we have all the support from His Royal Highness, from the Vision 2030, and we're just a small part, but it's really about delivering a message to the world of what Saudi culture and heritage is, which we have just phenomenal resources here. And this is the positive message. It's important. So we're ambassadors to the world. And I think it certainly is the growth opportunity here. And I saw the changes in China and Southeast Asia. Also, if you look at Dubai 20 years ago, there was no Burj Khalifa there. And if we look at Riyadh and Jeddah and these other locations, look at Qiddiya and Diriyah and Red Sea. This is really fantastic. And it's really about, the message to the world is Saudi values, hospitality. We're embracing to the world, which is not happening in other parts of the world. And I think this is a very, very good message. Come, because that's hospitality. And Saudi people are so warm and friendly, and especially they have this tradition and history of taking care of foreigners and strangers and providing for them. So we have a great platform in the hospitality industry. And tourism, I believe, certainly Saudi Arabia will be #1 before the target of 2030 globally for tourism.
You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here. Time has run out. The Death Reaper has come. Thank you so much to all of our panelists for a great conversation, a great topic. We look forward to doing it again. Thank you for the organizers to give us this opportunity. We've made a lot of friends. Anybody who has questions with regards to wellness and lifestyle and luxury, you know where to find us.
Thanks, Ruben. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.